everybody, and welcome back to Air Tycoon Online. It's probably been another 3 days or so since I last recorded an episode. And if we take a look at what's been going on, actually, we can see that we've been in a little bit of an economic crisis. Now, um, despite the fact we've been in an economic crisis, first let me show you guys the World Traveler Index, right? So we had a little dip. It wasn't nearly as bad as last time because it bottomed out just under 3K. And well, my company was designed around about 3.3K World Traveler Index, and most of my planes are about the size for that kind of World Traveler Index, right? So we kind of powered through it without too much problem. Um, in fact, we're hitting 2.8 billion upticks in the middle. It's just the downticks, which were a little bit worse than what we've been used to in like the couple years leading up to this economic crisis. In fact, our uptake even ticked past 3 billion. One thing you will notice is take a look at the aircraft lease expense, right? And you can see which turns I replaced most of these 747s and the really old ones, right? And how dramatically the profit is increasing, right? So the 747 strategy is great for getting you off the ground, but if you try and run it for too long, when the planes get old, like the satisfaction is just too low, and well, when you're flying around that many empty seats with that big of a plane, you have a big problem, right? And we can also kind of see how, with the 747s at least, we do need a pretty good World Traveler Index to maintain their profitability. You can see how in the last set of downticks, we had a big dip, and now that the World Traveler Index is a bit higher, the what's it called? The plane is barely dipping at all on load factor during the downticks. So yeah. Anyhow, as you can see, there's been a pretty big change in the profile of planes we've been flying, right? What you'll notice is there's all the 747s are now, what's it called? 747 400, 300s. You also notice, if you're very observant, we had 450 747 100s, and we only have 350 747 new variants. And that's because we moved some to 777 200, some to A340 300s, and some of them to MD-11s, right? Yeah, some of the routes I just thought that weren't big enough to comfortably fill a 747. I was like, well, I'll just use a slightly smaller plane, right? Having a lower but like a completely stable profit is actually just a better thing altogether, right? So, excuse me, it's a bit more work in the sense that you have to maintain a lot more planes to make the same amount of profit, right? But you would expand faster by doing so, and yeah, just flying slightly smaller than planes than necessary. I did also a little bit of experiment with the 777-200. It is the highest satisfaction plane, but for whatever reason, a high purchase cost. I don't know. I don't know why. It just doesn't seem to make a lot of money. Um, yeah, if we scroll through some of the 777-200s we have here, right? Just like taking a random selection, we'll see that they make about 5K. And for a plane that's pushing 300 million, that's not a lot. Here's a good one with a good range break point, right? And we're making like a 7K, just under 7K, right? But a good MD-11 makes about the same, would cost 60 million less per plane. Um, yeah, let's just take a look at a route which should be good, right? And these are making like 5K, which is just not very good. Where if we take a look at a smaller plane, the A340 300, for whatever reason, these planes make about the same amount, right? This plane is not quite 100 seats. It's like 80, 70 seats less, right? The initial purchase cost is significantly lower, and I think the average profit is actually just a little bit higher. Even with a really odd route like this, right? We're making almost 5K per turn with that. Like, let's take a look at yeah, it's just most of these they make about the same amount, just slightly less. But yeah, here's one that's making 6K, right? And that's better than most of the 777s we were looking at. That one's a little bit worse. There's one half the route was a competition route, but right. Um, I just think that generally speaking, the A340 appears to be a better plane. Now, it does have a relatively significantly now lower base satisfaction. Like this 777-200 has 8.0 efficiency too. So like what's the problem here? You know what I mean? Like, did I mess up the seats or something and seats not minimized? Nope. I mean, I didn't even put the in-flight entertainment for economy, and the satisfaction is still so good. Right? So, like, the 747 seems to make a lot of money. The 777, it just seems to have not enough seats for its purchase price, or something like that. It's Mach 0.84 too. It's very quick. Yeah, I can't quite figure out why that plane just doesn't produce as much money as it should. Um, So yeah, instead, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use and purchase new planes with higher satisfaction. Now, um, I should have mentioned this at the beginning, right? But as I've been replacing planes, what I've been noticing, right, is the most important thing for the profitability of a plane turns out to be its satisfaction. Let's take a look at some of these bad 767s. I mean, they're still profitable, right? They'd be a little bit more profitable if the price was lowered, but then when you replace the plane with a higher satisfaction plane, the price won't get changed back up, and it's a bit of a disaster to think of what we should do with the pricing without being able to do plane specific pricing, right? So um, yeah, as we can take a look, like the 767s are starting to do really bad because they're starting to age out, right? But on the other hand, these planes have half their life left, or just about half their life left. You know what I mean? So I think that base satisfaction is very important just to try and get a plane which can kind of survive with only one cabin renovation. Like for example, these DC-10s had decent satisfaction when I bought them, right? And with one cabin renovation, they do kind of look like they're going to make it to the end of their life. Um, with good enough satisfaction to not be like burning money. And we can see how the profit is dropping with the satisfaction, despite the fact that the World Traveler Index is coming back up. Like, so yeah, like planes when they get in the 30% like satisfaction range, it's just not great. Not great at all. Um, so yeah, like high satisfaction is the number one priority, right? So that's where these 777s would have an advantage. Is they're gonna hold these really high satisfaction numbers for a very long time. Um, the A340s will be good, but just 10% satisfaction. It's a few years, maybe just over a year, where it's just going to be a little bit better. One thing I am curious about is how are these older like what's it called 737s doing at this point? And that one's a competition one, so let's not look at that. And yeah, these ones are starting to really suck as well. Yeah, like this is making as much as like a Tupolev was. So yeah, I think for these domestic flights, as much as it kind of hurts to do so, I think I'm gonna stop flying them. Like for these Tupolevs, right, as they expire, I'm just not gonna replace them. And what that will let me do is like, can I like try and like toss like if I sell this plane, will it sell all the planes with less H in it? I don't think so, right? It won't break all the routes. That could result in an accidental disaster, right? But I think if I want to fly short haul, I'll just make them short haul routes as one half of a stopover because spending all day replacing planes with seven, what's it called? 37 400s replacing most of my Tupolevs, right? Like, how much do these even make? Okay, well, this was a recently replaced Tupolev, so let's not look at that. Let's do a slightly older one, right? And this makes 1.6K when the plane is brand new, right? But as time passes, right, how much does that plane make? Um, yeah, that's like my main observation, right? Is as the planes get older, their ability to make profit really falls off hard. So yeah, we need to be really focused on satisfaction here. So, what I kind of want to do this episode is replace a lot of those older 767s, do a cabin refurbishment for these 767s, right? And move them into more appropriate routes. So between the A340 and A330 family, the A330 actually has much higher satisfaction. So what I want to do here is kind of use the A330 um, to replace as many 767s as possible. Now, the A330 has one major downside, which is the range is just not quite high enough. And I think for the other, for like planes where I need longer range, I might just use the 777, right? Because even though I don't like how profitable the 777 is, it's slightly disappointing, right? Like, look at how much cash I have right now. Like, I have $28 billion to spend. Um, yeah, like the challenge here is not going to be what's it called? Like how much money the planes cost initially, right? It's just about being able to actually get all this money working for me instead of just sitting in the bank, right? So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and buy a good amount of a, but like okay, the A340 is actually only 6% worse or 4% worse in satisfaction, which is definitely an amount I'm willing to like I'm willing to like spare, you know what I mean? Yeah, like I think it's just a better idea than flying the for some reason just not very I don't know. I don't know if like it just seems a little bit off for a 440 seat plane, and it consistently makes as much as like an MD-11 despite being way more efficient. Like it's just all the money going into depreciation. I genuinely don't know. Um, I wish I could look at it in the routes view, right? But it's just gonna be difficult to find. But let's scroll to it. So 777 would be near the end. I think it'd be the last 737s I have, or 7 series planes, right? 737 300. Oh, this is reverse. So I think we need to go up. MD-11 76 DC-10. So it should be under the DC-10s. There's not too many of them. Right, yeah, like this is the easiest way to look at it. So this one is making a really good amount. Um, oh, okay, never mind. It looks like okay, this is a little bit awkward. It looks like it was just a bad sample. Because on a wider sample, we can see that they do make a pretty good amount, and they probably make definitely over 5K. It's just all the ones I sampled made just that's crazy. Um, how much does 767 300s make? These make looks like the satisfaction is starting to fall off. But these when they're new, it looks like they make about 4.5K. That's pretty good. Let's go to 767 200s, which are all aging out as we can see. We definitely do some renovations. The SPs I did do renovations on. As you can see, they're still making good profits. 747 400s. Yes, fantastic profit, and they will be for a while because they have much higher satisfaction. And then let's go down to the Airbuses. Let's go to, yeah, I made some A3 4200 routes last time. Yeah, as you can see, they're not very profitable, about 4K. Not really worth it, just kind of fun. But not going to make too many more of those direct routes unless I'm kind of bored. So, yeah, okay, now here we can clearly see that the A340s are indeed making significantly less than the 777s, right? And the 777 routes we were looking at just turned out to be a bad sample size, where they just happen to be making less. Okay, that makes more sense, right? I just couldn't really understand why a plane, which is more efficient, what's it called? Has higher satisfaction, right? And like just is just a better plane altogether, right? It was making less. That was a bit confusing to me. And it turns out, yeah, we just had a very unlucky sample of routes we checked, which is why you should do what I just did instead of what I was doing earlier, right? Yeah. Damn. I remember the reason why this came up is the last time I used the 777-200 is I forgot to make the seats as like small as possible, right? So all the 777s were making like 4K per turn, and I just couldn't get it. I was like, is this happening again? Is like, did I remember that wrong? Well, it was about 5 years ago now, right? And I was like, did I remember that wrong? And like, it's 777's actually a great plane, or like or did I remember it right? And I just couldn't quite remember what was going on. So I thought that maybe the plane was just bad, especially when I just happened to pick a few routes which did not happen to be that profitable, right? So yeah, anyways, we got a bunch of A330s, bunch of A340s, bunch of 777s, and let's go ahead and replace 767. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do a renovation by model, right? Um, and let's see the point in which the satisfaction turns red. Satisfaction here is 36%. So let's go a little bit down. 36%. Like at what satisfaction range does it like turn red? Because that's the moment I think the load factors really start to drop off hard. Like these load factors already aren't good, right? But like, oh, okay, they don't drop off as hard as I thought, but the profit just kind of drops off like gradually, right? So honestly, I'll just do a renovation on most of them. Just anything below 30, let's say, and let's do new seats, new what's it called? And one thing I think I will do right for these older planes is just increase the seat spacing just a little bit. Oh, that barely touches the satisfaction at all. Okay, never mind. That's not worth it. I was thinking I just like increase the seat spacing a little bit just to make sure that the satisfaction lives longer, but it just doesn't seem to be worth it. So yeah, anyways, let's get these back up to like 66%. I don't know how much I just spent on that. Oh, a good chunk of my money, right? So that's gonna chunk my value because obviously renovations don't affect value. But now what we will go through here is we're gonna go through these routes and replace them with, I think, the appropriate plane depending on the route, right? A lot of these were made when the World Traveler Index was really bad. And now I think like a lot of these can be like much bigger planes. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna pick the plane that I think is appropriate for the job and move these 767s to less significant routes. And slowly over time, by doing this kind of route replacement, right, you end up with much better distributions of which planes are flying which routes. Otherwise, if you don't do this, I think what often happens is you genuinely just have most of your planes on routes which aren't appropriately sized, and yeah, you end up doing too many too small aircraft, right? And also, another reason why I want to do this instead of just buying more 767s, like I always preach, right? Use the smaller planes that are available when they're available. So why aren't I doing that here? And the idea behind what I'm doing here is that the planes that I want to use, the A310, 767, the satisfaction is just too low now, right? I would use those planes, but if I buy more of them, the satisfaction is going to drop too quickly. We've been talking about satisfaction a lot today, right? And if satisfaction drops too much, we're just going to lose money. And I'm going to have to do two cabin renovations instead of maybe just one for the lifetime of a plane, which doesn't sound really fun. Um, the cabin renovation is instant, right? So I'll give it that much. That's definitely a positive thing. Um, it also just costs a ton of money, especially on these more expensive planes and these bigger planes, right? So might as well fly the brand new planes we have available, which are all slightly bigger, which means like we gotta make sure we don't over pick the wrong kind of route for these planes, right? So I think, yeah, that's basically the idea here. Yeah, and just as a byproduct, each plane has a or each route is now flying a plane, which will maximize the route's profit a little bit more than by flying 767-200s and everything, which are usually, at least when the satisfaction is not a struggle, just permanently full, right? So yeah. Anyhow, yeah, we're just gonna like go down this list. Yeah, basically, if you don't know how I'm deciding which planes to use, is I genuinely just play this game way too much, and when I see a city like Addis Ababa, I go, oh, Addis Ababa, 350 to 400 business and tour. All right, right now it's only about 300, right? But I thought the World Traveler Index recovered more. I guess it's not quite done. We were close to 4,000. Um, I don't think the world recovered exactly the same as it was before, interestingly enough, right? But yeah, like generally, I was a little bit off there. Um, but generally, when I see the number of a city, I get a general ballpark of how big it is. I wonder how Paris recovered. Because Paris was like third biggest city, and it recovered to about the same. Okay, nice. Um, Right. So yeah. A little bit off topic there, right? But like I play this game just too much, and for some, when I see a city, I know approximately how big it is. I was a little bit off there, right? But I was gonna pick A330 anyway instead of a bigger plane. Um, like Port Alegre, Chicago, Genzo, right? For example, I know Genzo is pretty good. I know Port Alegre is not very good, but I'm gonna put a 777 on anyway because I know Chicago is huge. Um, Mobile, Plum Frankfurt's not that big. Mobile is not that big, so maybe A340 for this route. Right, and yeah, this is just like the thoughts which are going through my head for each one of these. Like obviously I'm gonna be wrong on some of these. Like there's just no way to know everything and to get everything perfect, but we'll get it right when we can. Almaty to Los Angeles. Almost everything to Los Angeles will be 777 if it's a proper stopover where it's not one really short route and one really long route. Just because Los Angeles is an enormous driver of demand. And I think it might have been overtaken by Chicago or the other one. Like, but this route is terrible, right? So A330 it is. I would honestly probably leave that as a 767, right? And now what we're gonna do is, now that we have a good mix of all the planes remaining, is we're just gonna go ahead and open stopover routes with these planes, and just kind of pick the plane which we think is appropriate for the route. Um, so let's go Brunei to London, and like this kind of route, like honestly, I think this is an A340 route, which is kind of crazy, right? Like, because you'd think it'd be smaller, but I think London just carries enough of the demand load. But if I do something like this is going to be a 767 route, just because I know that these are very small cities on both sides, and Madrid is not very big, um, and can't carry the route. So yeah, we're gonna pick a smaller plane. So I'm gonna go ahead and should I do this on camera or not? Ooh, this is gonna be a while. So I'm gonna do this a little bit off camera, and I'll be back. All right, everyone. So I've made a lot of routes, and I think what you guys might notice is that the number of trans-Pacific routes of all different sorts are kind of starting to increase over time. Um, yeah, we now have a good amount of service the Trans-Pacific realm. We're gonna increase this as time goes on, open more and more stopovers. Um, I've opened Guangzhou as a hub. I've opened what's it called, Beijing as a hub. And yeah, with these new hubs, we're just gonna facilitate more trans-Pacific flights, and we're eventually gonna cover the whole. I mean, Asia to Europe, uh, North America is still the biggest market, right? But like slowly, we're gonna get even more and more lines, right? One thing we do need to do before this turn is up is we need to reset the prices, right? So if the load factor is 0, we're gonna set the prices up. Um, one thing that this will kind of mess up is the business classes on my what's it called, short haul flights, which should be at 1.2 or 1.25, and now instead they're going to be 1.3 because I did the plane replacement this turn as well, right? So yeah, anyhow, with that being done, we have some A330s left, right? Yeah, just their kind of range limitations causes it to be just a little bit harder to use them consistently, but I will be using them on a lot of trans-Pacific flights quite soon. Yeah, if we take a look at like some of these 777 flights that we've been making up and close, we can see kind of the interesting like patterns we've been doing. So like for example, we've done something like this, you know what I mean, like South America to North America to Asia. We did a whole bunch of stopovers, which were a North American city like Kansas, right? And then we'd stop over in Beijing, and then stop over somewhere like this, right? This would be a good route to open it with an A330 or a 777. Probably a 777 would be a little bit better. I'm just gonna set the price manually because I don't want the turn to pass and all the prices to be messed up. Oh, that's one of the worst things that's happened to me is I wasn't paying attention. The turn passed and I had opened like 100 routes, which were all now 100% load factor and 1.0 pricing, and I had to go weed them out and increase the prices. And I ended up just messing up most of my prices because I tried to use the automatic pricing function to try and fix that. So what I'm gonna do in the last few minutes before the turn passes, I'm gonna fix this until the turn passes, and then we'll be back. All right, guys, we are back. It took a while to fix all the airports in the red, actually, and it looks like I didn't even fix all of them. I missed one, right? But yeah, there was a ton of airports in the red. That just shows that we're growing well. When airports are getting close, like 78, it's probably a good time to order some more as well because they're about to go into the red. So anyhow, yeah, as you can see up, we're making more profit on a downtick whilst opening new routes and a new base is always a really good sign. Over a billion increase in profit just by doing some of those adjustments. Um, Doing a bunch of those plane replacements, and of course, what's it called, opening all those new routes. Yeah, as we saw there at the bottom of the profitability list, actually, we are missing a few planes. Some of them crashed, it looks like. Yeah, it just looks like a few Tupelo 134s crashed. Actually, that's quite funny. Yeah. Anyways, like, yeah, I'm just kind of curious to see like how these brand new routes do, and they do all right. They do all right. But yeah, nothing fantastic. And here we have $8 billion again. I'm not gonna spend this tonight. It's been a lot of scheduling, but I probably will next time. You know what I mean? And we can kind of see how a lot of these routes we opened are gonna do. I'm curious on like some of the planes we use for replacement. How are they doing? Right? So the A330 looks to be about a 5 million per turn kind of plane. Um, Actually, I should always go look for it in the planes tab. It does take forever, right? But if we look long and if we look carefully enough, we will find it. So yeah, as we can see, the established routes, upwards of 6K. Um, what is this route making so little? Jacksonville, Athens, uh, Athens, Durban. Like, why is that making less than 4K? It must be a really terrible range breakpoint. Yeah, so it looks like this plays about 4 to 6K, so about 5K average. Let's look at some of the 777s that we've added. Is this going up or down? This is going up. So triple seven 200, we went right past it. Yeah, okay. These look to be about 6K per turn. Here's a couple 5Ks in a row, maybe 5.5K per turn. So that actually kind of checks out, right? Especially because the depreciation cost will be quite a bit higher for these. 578K. It's probably about um just a few points higher than, like, let's take a look at 767, which is a similar price to A340. Right? It's just a little bit less, right? And if we take a look at the depreciation cost, yeah, it's like 200K less. So that's definitely a noticeable amount. Or 200 less, not 200K. Yeah. Anyways, the K is kind of implied in this game. Like, it usually can tell like what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? If I say this is a 2K route, you obviously don't mean it's not 2K, it's 2000K, right? But like, you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. Anyways, yeah, one of the nice things is we can see how much the 767's profit recovered from doing renovations. So yeah, that's the importance of satisfaction. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.